Hey guys, what's up? Eddie Yahoo here with KissAnalog.com. Alright guys, today, exciting day. This video should have happened a year ago. I'll tell you that little story in a minute. Anyway, we're going to look at the best scopes under 500 bucks. And they happen to be 12-bit scopes now, which is awesome. Under 400 bucks, I just did that video. Actually, I did part 2 as well. They're very long videos. This one's going to be shorter, so I'm going to try to make this short, okay? Guys, when you're looking at a really great scope, what you want is deep memory, right? First of all, you have to have the sample rate, which pretty much all scopes have the right sample rate these days, right? That's where you take so many samples a second. And if you have a 70 meg scope or 200 meg or 500 meg scope, then if you're at 500 megahertz, you have to take more samples, right? Well, you want at least 2. The general math on most scopes is 2.5 samples per cycle, okay? If you get that many, they can rebuild a cycle. That's kind of the Nyquist theorem. So they pretty much all follow that, okay? And I mean, and all of them in this category do for sure, all right? So the next thing you want is deep memory, because when you have a bunch of cycles, and if you can save all that stuff, you need some memory to save all that. So that way you get a bunch of cycles, you see something going on here, something going on here, you can zoom in over there, you know, after you freeze and stop and store the waveform, you can come over here, come over there and look at those things, right? The other thing you want is refresh rate. That's kind of like when you look at something, capture the image, you blink, and you capture it again, blink. The scope captures it all, puts it on the screen, and then it does it again, does it again, does. They do it so fast these days. All these scopes are super fast that way. So that's important, but it's pretty much a given on these scopes with deep memory. You know, so that's, you can compare the different scopes in that, but whether you could actually see the difference in them, I don't know, you know. So those things are all taken care of. Now what we want, so that's all the horizontal stuff. That's the signal as it goes along, how many samples we take and how we can reconstruct it. But as it goes this way, the vertical, they've been 8-bit in this category for a long time. And I've been asking for 10 or 12-bit scopes for a long time. And so now they're out. Actually, O1, to give O1 credit, they had them out first. O1 still needs a little bit more polish work, but it's a great scope. It has a really nice screen. There's a lot of nice things to like about the O1. It's just not quite as polished around, especially around the FFT, okay? And I look at the FFT a lot, so, you know, so I look at that. Anyway, we got to give O1 credit. They have a 2-channel scope that fits this category. I think it's 14-bit. Maybe it's 12-bit. I think it's 14-bit 2-channel that fits this price category, the $500 and below. But guys, this Rigol and the Siglent, there's a Rigol and Siglent out that at 70 megahertz, they're $439. And right now, the Rigol has been on sale for a while now, just under $400. So, man, that's crazy price. Crazy price that you can get all this stuff in for this kind of price. So I was going to do this, the best scope under 500 bucks. When I reached out to Rigol, the guy said, hey, we got this new scope coming out. It's going to be called the HDO. Well, it turned out to be DHO. That's how early I contacted him and told him I wanted to redo this video because my last video like this was over 100,000 views. So I thought, and people would ask, like, hey, can you update this? So a year ago, I was going to do this video. But then the guy stopped contacting me after he said, hey, we're going to, you know, just wait. And I waited and I saw other people reviewing it. I'm like, what the heck? Well, I also contacted Siglent because I found out they were coming out with one. And the guy said, hey, it's going to be out very shortly. We'll send you one. Turned out that I thought, hey, that name sounds like the Rigol. And I looked, I'm like, it is the same guy. Turns out the guy who left Rigol went to Siglent. So that guy just doesn't respond to me. He responds at the beginning. I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, Siglent wouldn't send me out a scope. So I don't have one to show you. On paper, you know, I thought they were going to beat Rigol, okay, just because of memory. But anyway, let's jump into this video. I want to show you some things, and you guys let me know what you think, okay? All right. Thanks for watching. Give the video a like, thumbs up if you if you find value in it at all. Man, I've had to redo this thing a number of times for different technical reasons and different reasons. But yes, I really appreciate the like if you find value in the video. Okay, all right, let's jump into this video. Thanks, guys. You know, guys, I wanted to start off by showing you how the new face of the Rigol, both 7-inch screens, touch screen, so it's gotten rid of all these buttons, okay, which help them shrink in the size. See, if I bring this edge right here, you can see how much longer this guy is, right? A couple inches longer. I put it over this way so you could see the screen's the same size. Now, these are spaced the same, right? See, if I put that like that, you can kind of see they're spaced the same. But what they did was, see this kind of fat area? They kind of made it longer, skinnier here, okay? So they got the 4 buttons, and they put these smaller buttons stacked on top of each other instead of this way. So you can see how the 2 knobs, everything is just more vertical. Same, now this, you know, the horizontal thing is pretty vertical, right? Pretty narrow. But look, they also took the buttons that they didn't even have on this one and added them to here. So when you record a bunch of information and you want to jump around and look at it, so that's what this is. Over here is driven by buttons, okay? So they've added stuff, but they still kept about the same width. It might be a little bit wider through here, but then the trigger section, almost the same shape. It's just, it looks like it's somehow a little bit thinner through here, right? Instead of curving out this way and curving, they just thinned it down. Now the knobs are different too. There's more ridges. They're still kind of hard plastic like that, but they are a little bit easier to grip because these are a little bit more smooth around. These are a little bit more grippy. So they just changed this whole area. Now this area up here, big difference, right? So instead of having the buttons across here, you know, clear, auto, run, single, now we have clear, auto, run, stop here. So they've kind of stuck them right here, and single's right there, and then they have the default. So they took a bunch of these buttons and they kind of combined them all right here, okay? Now the acquire and display and cursor measure, the cursor measure analysis are right here, okay? But some of these buttons, like the storage and some of these things, are in the menu now, okay? So some of this stuff they simplified. The help and the print button, you know, they have this quick button that you can program to what you want to do, so you can use it for printing, which is probably, you know, for saving images, probably the thing you want to do. And the help now is over here too. So some of this stuff, all these buttons and all this stuff they had room for because of how wide this was. They simplified it, and then some of them they put in to the menus, okay? So I just wanted to show you how different it was. Now over here it had a mechanical button on off. Over here it's on, you can see it glowing. So it's in hibernation mode, then you push it and turns it on. So there's not a mechanical switch, but yet it's getting DC voltage fed from USB-C, so it doesn't have AC power coming to it. So in that sense, it's safer. You're not going to get transients or lightning damage through your cord. Very unlikely since it's USB-C. So USB-C offers more power protection as well. Well, and obviously you can see how much shallower it is, right? It's not near, I mean, it's dropped 1.5 inches in thickness probably, because this is really thin. So on the top of this one, it had a handle that flipped up, right? But it was just loosey-goosey, and then it snaps in. But this one, they just made the handle like that. So you got the vents for heat to rise, which heat wants to rise, right? So they've designed the back, the vents, and the bottom, and the feet, you can see how they protrude. So there's always, you know, even when you're sitting down, there's room for air to flow this way, all the way through here, and up through these vents. So the heating system is designed better, so it's natural convection through the thing. So So we got these feet that pop out and they snap out pretty hard, okay? There's rubber on this end and there's rubber on that side. So, you know, it just makes for a nice platform versus the little feet that popped out in front of the older designs where they just did this and you push on the scope and they just fold in. You know, now you push on the scope and see when they pop out, you push on the scope, it's going to rock back, but they're not going to fold in. So that, you know, they've improved the design all the way around, right? As far as the ports on the back, you got all your access. Here's your USB-C cord. And so once your feet are out, you got plenty of room for this kind of to come, you know, to come out and then turn. And then you have your aux out BNC connector. So they've done a really nice job. It has the HDMI, which I want to point out too. And then there's that key lock, which probably no one uses. Leave me a comment down below if you ever use that. And here's a ground connection. Because we have USB-C, now we have an isolated scope. But if you do want to tie this to the chassis of everything else, you can. And you also have the Visa mount. You know, you can mount it on the swing-way arm if you wanted to swing it into the bench to use it, and then out of your way if you don't. But, I mean, this thing takes very little room on the bench now. Look how thin it is. So, yeah, they really ground up design. And I'm going to turn it on and show you the software, how it looks totally different than the old menu system on the old Rigol. Okay, guys, so I'm going to show you the Siglent. The Siglent, I don't have, this is the SDS804x, but the new 12-bit scope looks very similar to this. Now, this is an 8-inch screen. For some reason, they went back to 7. So cut off an inch over here, and that's about the size of the new one. And, you know, probably has the same feet, you know. So it looks very similar to this old design, right? Vents on the sides. So, yeah. The new one, unfortunately, they didn't do, you know, a new design from ground up. Same kind of handle as the old Rigol. So with the new 12-bit Siglent, I feel like you're just getting the old case and the same kind of, you know, design as far as the user interface. Okay, now, I mean, I'm talking about the mechanical user interface. Now, as far as the firmware, yeah, I'm sure they've changed it because there's new features, but who knows how much they improved it. All right, guys, what I can say about the new Siglent is, now this is the 1202X, right? The X-E has 4 channels instead of 2 with the external. So instead of having a separate set of controls for each channel, they have, it's like the Rigol with the 4 buttons, 4 channel buttons, and 1 set of controls, okay? So, you know, so it looks a little bit different than this, right? And they also have the navigation buttons right here. The, you know, play, stop, and the fast forward and rewind buttons, like up in this area. So, and they just moved a few buttons around, like they put the default button under these 2. So they just kind of reorganized this. So that's the -E. The new 12-bit version looks the same to me. It does have an HDMI port here, and then it has this calibration stuff right here, which that's -E, okay? Because it's an 8-inch screen, it's a bigger screen, so they laid it out differently. But the -E was, to me, feels like a downgrade from this one. It looks like the 12-bit, they used the same case, and everything's, to me, it looks all the same, okay, as far as size and everything. So now this, like I said, it's going to be a little bit shorter than this one because it's an 8-inch screen. So it'll be a 7-inch screen, the -E. So you take off about an inch here, and that's about what you have with the 12-bit. So I think that was a little bit unfortunate. Now, I know the GUI, the software interface, has been improved because now you get rid of the menu bar, so you can use the whole 7 inches like you can with the Rigol. So I'm not sure how many firmware changes, so I don't have the new Siglent 12-bit to show you. So I'm just showing this as a kind of something to look at. All right, I'll power this up so you can watch you know, how it powers up, lights up things. But meanwhile, I want to talk to you about the power. The power's coming in through this DC adapter now, okay, instead of an AC cord. So you don't have this safety ground, this chassis ground, where it ties all the chassis of all your equipment together, because you don't have AC power. So it's safer to operate because of that. So you do have some isolation from your AC ground, okay? It still shows a chassis symbol here because it's tied to that chassis on the back, and it's tied to any metal thing as chassis, okay? It's a chassis of this, but it's no longer tied to a safety ground unless you decide to plug something in the back of the scope where I showed you. So, you know, I've never really cared how long it takes something to power up. I noticed this new Rigol does take a bit longer, but that doesn't bother me at all, because once it starts up, I'm still going to let it warm up for, you know, 15, 20 minutes before I do any serious work with it, because I want it to, everything to stabilize, warm up, and, you know, all the semiconductors to come to stabilization. So anyway, you know, so that's the power up. Now, look at that nice screen. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, guys, I'll just walk you through the layout again real quick. You got your 4 channels. You can turn them all on right here, right? And I can move them down. The buttons move really nicely. You choose which one you want to move, and yeah, they're just, you know, it's just a nice setup, right? Here's channel 1. See, the arrow's pointing at its off screen, so I can push it and it'll pop right here in the middle, which, you know, I can put them all on top of each other by just pushing. All these buttons are push in just like they always have been. Now, this guy here, he can be, you can push it in. It says fine on, and now it's fine. It's going to just, you can see the voltages here move just by, you know, fractions of a volt. If I go here, it moves by, you know, whatever. It just goes to the next division, right? Okay. We have our math, our reference. You know, the references are great. A lot of people might not use them, but if you push reference, you can save a waveform into a reference. And look, over here, you can see that there's, we'll go to reference here, and there's 10 references you can save. And you know what? Before we go any further, I think what I'm going to do just for the camera, there's a gear over here which gives you a menu of a whole bunch of different things. Let's go to display. And the grid brightness is 50%. I'm gonna max it out for the camera, okay? And wave intensity, I'm gonna max it out too. And you got your grids for full, half, or none. But, you know, generally like full, I think. And persistence is set to minimum. And if I push this, you can set it, you know, 100 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds a second. And then 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10, and infinite, okay? We're going to just choose minimum, okay? And then show scale is on, color grade is off, and waveform freeze is on, okay? That's your display button, okay? There's lots of features. I'm going to kind of walk you through some of those, but I just want to show you this display. We got our menu button here, pops up and it shows you, you know, all this horizontal stuff, average. We got normal, we're set now, average peak, ultra acquire, you know, some noisy type stuff. Memory depth is 10K, right? So these are deep memory scopes. Look, we go up to 1 meg. Well, it starts off at auto, okay? And then right now it goes to 1 meg. Now let's see, if we turn off some of these channels, okay, I turned off 2 channels. Let's see what we get now as options. Okay, now we go to 10 meg. So I guess that's the disadvantage of the Rigol, is it drops down to 1 meg with 4 channels, okay? I didn't realize it dropped down that much memory, but then we got 25 meg if we have 1 channel. So 25 meg, 10 meg. Now what if does it have to be in a certain bank? Let's test that. So 1 and 3. Nope, we're still 10. So any 2 channels, you can go 10 meg, and 1 channel, you go 25. But if you go 3, it's probably going to drop us down to 1 meg. Yep. So 3 or 4 channels is 1 meg. But what's nice is you can go channel 1, channel 4, and you get 10 meg on each one. So it's not bank specific, okay? Because some scopes, if you use one of the channels on one bank, one of the channels on the other bank, it's as if you're using all 4 channels. And so that's the way they treat it, because each 2 channels shares half the memory. But in this case, that's not it. So that's good. Okay, so you can maybe see all the other things you can set up there. So that's in this. And then we have our navigate buttons, right? So you can store a whole bunch of information. You can trigger on events that happen very fast, but maybe 1 or 10 seconds or, you know, more time apart from each other. So you can store a whole bunch of those events and then you can navigate through them. Okay. And if I hit the navigate button, it's kind of hard to see, I think, maybe, but you can time, you can do it by event or by segment. Okay. And then there's some, you know, settings there, and you got your fast forward and your play buttons, kind of, you know, repeated these buttons over here. Okay. Turn that off. And then you got your trigger. So if I push trigger, you can see all the different triggers you have. I mean, there's just a ton of triggers. I really like that. The other thing I want to show you, when you push this button, all right, guys, the other thing I want to show you is you can change your slope right here. So they gave it its own specific button, which I think that's really cool, because so many times you open up the menu and you have to go hit a couple things to get to slope. But here, right, this little light right here, if you can see that, you know, maybe you can see that light, but it shows rising edge. And then if I push it, it shows falling edge, push it again, and then it's going to alternate between them. I'll show you that in a moment. And then you got your force trigger. You know, that's why, you know, maybe you set up a single trigger, you're waiting for it to trigger, you're like, come on, come on, come on. And up here it says wait. And then you go, oh, shoot, am I even set up right? So you go force. And you go, yep, I can see my waveforms. See, now it says stop because it's in stop mode. But if I push this again, now it's run stop. Now it's in auto mode, okay? So just a really nice setup. I mean, some of these features are the same ones you found in the earlier Rigols. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I want to make the video a little bit shorter, but just show you how cool this is. The interface, I mean, okay, so up here you can go to horizontal, right? Your horizontal section right now, it's 2 microseconds. See, when I move this, and if I push it, it says vernier, but it's like fine. It's funny that it's called vernier, but I mean, it's over here it's called a fine and coarse, and over here it's called vernier. But that's kind of old school stuff. Anyway, I can also click on this and it comes up with the horizontal selection, same as when I hit this menu here. Okay, same thing. So there multiple ways to do different, you know, the same thing. And then here's all your setup stuff that I showed you before: normal, average, peak, you know, the trigger section, all that stuff. So you got it right there too. You can do it that way. So when you hit the delay here, like if you wanted to have delay, it comes up with the same thing as you did when you hit that button. And then trigger button. Now we got just trigger section, so we can play around the trigger. Same thing as when I hit the trigger over here, right? Same menu. Okay, now there's this cool window here. You see how, I hope you can see that, both arrows are lit up. So that means I can go both directions. So if I go this direction, okay, if I go all the way, that arrow turns off. Now this arrow's on. So it says stop run. So I can select that there. See, I just hit stop. Put it back in stop run. You got your measurement window. So I haven't shown you the measurements. So here's measurements. Now, vertical settings. So see, I can play. I mean, it's really, there's a lot of stuff you can do here, guys. I'm going to go back to the basic measurement window, hit vertical here, and then look at that. So there's lots of different things you can do. Go back to the basic measurement. I also go to the horizontal, bunch of stuff here, and other. So lots of features. All right, the other thing I want to show you is this, keep going through. Here's default. So this is the same as this button right here. Just set it back. Maybe I got lost. I'm, you know, kind of new to the scope, and I just want to go back to my default measurement. So that's what that's for. Here's a flex knob. So these are kind of, the flex knobs are kind of broken up into these 2 knobs here, but if I push this, it gives me some control over how that works, okay? So that's super cool. And then here's Windows. So I'm going to pass that up for now. Okay, let's go to cursors. So look at the cursor menu over here. all your DXY stuff. So you can see here, and this guy here, see it says #1, and he's moving that guy around. So that's #1 button. Now if I push this again, it still says #1, but and it turns out it's the 2 solid lines. So the 2 solid lines are what I control with this guy. And #2 is over here. It's a dash line. So I can move that in. Then I can hit it again. And then look, there's #2 here for the other dash line. So the 2 dash lines are controlled by this guy. So it's really neat that, I mean, I think there's less jumping around or less toggling through this guy because you have 2 here, 2 here. So you can just move your finger and you grab the other 2 versus the other one, you'd have to roll through the menus to get to, get back here, right? So anyway, I think that's just really nice. And then what else? Okay, math. So the math menu is really big. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Okay, operator. Of course, I always like to show the FFT because that is a really cool thing. These scopes, especially this particular one, they've done so much more on it. So let's see what else we have. XY, you got an XY window. Look at the XY window. Man, they have really expanded the use of the XY window too. I think that's really cool. And you got your cursors in the XY as well. So that's neat. Okay, now when I turn off the cursor, you get the XY here and the normal waveform window over there. So, just kind of showing you how that works. And right now they're tied to channel 2, so I can hit channel 1. They'll tie themselves to channel 1. So, okay, what else? Here, let's turn off the... Now, here, gives me a chance to show you that. That little thing right there, you touch that and opens up the windows, gets rid of the menu, and then you have your little X up here. You have to do that to find your X to get rid of that XY window. So we're back to this window. I get rid of the cursors, and then we have our storage button, okay? So you can store, file management, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's some options here that are really nice. And counter, okay, oh, yeah, check this out. So I got a frequency counter, right? I can put it here, and let's see. There's decode, okay, there's digital decoding. We'll go over that in a minute. There's a record button that goes with this navigation stuff, and here's navigate. Okay, so if I push record, kind of gives you this menu. If I push navigate, it gives you that menu, which I had over here. Okay, so you know what? Let's go to, oh, I forgot DVM. So I also have a voltmeter. So I got counter and voltmeter. So I can look at them. I go, okay, cool. I want to get rid of them. I can do that. So I can be working along and all of a sudden I want to see my counter and voltmeter. I can just push this. Okay. And it's kind of cold in my lab. So sometimes I have to hit them twice. Okay. So we're going to get rid of that window again. And let's go look at decode, okay? So here's your decode stuff. Bus status, bus type, we're in parallel mode, RS-232, I2C, SPI, and so let's say if I go to I2C, okay, here's all your setup stuff for that. So, man, I think it's really cool. I mean, let's go to SPI. You can kind of see the menus, all the options you have for each one of these guys. All right, which one haven't I shown you? Okay, RS-232, let's go that one. So there's RS-232. Okay, the other thing I want to show you why we're in RS-232, I just want to come over here, baud rate. Man, look at all the options you get. 3 megabits per second, 10 megabits per second. I mean, you get tons of options. So I just think that's really cool too. So just wanted to point out the decode thing. And also on the trigger, if I come over here to trigger, the type is edge or pulse, all these things, and then you got your RS-232 I2C. So you got your, if you're triggering on data, you have that too, just like other scopes. But noise reject, the menu is just really nice to be able to see everything. And you can just touch the screen somewhere to get rid of the menu. All right, guys, now I want to come back over here and show you I want to show you the windows. So I'm going to scroll over here until I find it. And then I go, you know what? Instead of doing that way, I just want to go to gear. Because this is a fast way to get to a lot of those things. A lot of those things are right here, right? Storage, X, Y. You know, I think they're all here. Plus there's more stuff. Here's your help menu, upgrade, utility. Okay. Your DVM. Okay. So yeah, you got your DVM, your counter, reference, histogram, so you can set up that. And again, you got color. Okay, and then math. You notice there's 4 squares. These 4 squares. That kind of goes along with this window thing. Let me show you the windows. So in Windows, I can go, oh, I want to look at FFT while I look at this. So I go math, and then I can go, okay. Okay, there's 4 math types, right? And that's these 4 right here. So I can set up each one of these math types a certain way, okay? And then once I do, I can come over here and I can turn it on. I go math 2, math 1. See, I get these extra windows. I think that's just super cool. It's like my Pico scope that I get. It's the only other scope I know I could get a bunch of windows like this. Okay, so, and it's a lot more expensive than this guy. So let's go back to Windows. So, okay, we got that set up. Okay, so math, all right, fine. And we're going to, you know, you got your source A, B, you can set those up whatever channels you want. You got your decode here too. So you can have your digital decode window up, okay? So you can push that if you want to, and then you can set that up. But here, let's just come over here. And I can turn them on and off by hitting the squares like that too. I don't have to hit the X's up here. So now I got this guy going on, right? So I can come over to my math and I can say the operator A plus B. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do FFT. Look at all the different math functions you can do. I'll do FFT. Okay, so I can set it up for span, which is 10 megahertz right now. So I can say, well, I want 1 megahertz. So now it's going to go across 1 megahertz. Offsets, you know, 8 volts dB. That's where this little thing's set up on this screen. So color, I can turn on color. You got your grid options as well. You got dBm, dB volts, or volts RMS. So here's all your options. And then over here, center. So right now it's set up for span and start. So, oh, the center is 5 meg and I got 1 meg. So I'm looking at basically 4.5 meg to 5.5 meg, the way I have it set up. Span 1 meg and center's 5 meg, okay? Okay, right now it's span center, right? So, okay, so I can come over here and hit start and end, and I can go 0 hertz for start, and I'll make, I don't know, 10K. So I go 10K. So now it's going to give me a spectrum from 0 to 10K. So isn't that nice how easy it is to set up? Here's the types of window functions you can do. So rectangle, Blackburn, Hamming, flat top, triangle. Whoops. Didn't mean to get rid of the whole math window. So yeah, I just think it's really easy and nice to be able to set up. It's almost like setting up a spectrum analyzer. So here we are over here, 0, 1K, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10K. So I just need a signal in here, right? Let's do that. Okay, what I want to show you is I want to show you the color scale too, because I think it's really cool how you can turn that on here. So, I mean, look at this. So as you're, now we got to put a signal in here so you can capture it, but it shows you the, you know, the histogram or whatever, the things that's the hottest and the things coldest, like how often it goes, you know, where it's going. So let's get a signal in here so you can really get a good look at this. All right, guys, so I've got a signal on channel 1. I'm looking at the compensation thing. So let's hit auto setup. Okay, there's my square wave. Let's get some more waves on there. Oh, by the way, when did you notice that when I did the auto? You get kind of like you did on the Siglent. You got the more waves. I could just do it that way. You know, and you had the redo and or the undo and, you know, those kind of things. So I hit it again. And you notice how fast it is too. So here's the undo button, rising edge, falling edge. So right now it's rising. I hit falling, now it's falling. And I'll go back and say auto again. And here's a gear that you can set it up that way. Okay. So, I mean, lots of options with this guy now. So you hit auto again, and I'm just going to say more waveforms. Okay. I'm going to need more than that to get a good FFT. You see that FFT now? Now I can grab this guy and pull it down into the screen. Yeah, once you start getting used to the touch screen, it is kind of nice. Now, here, let me do this, squish it in. Whoops, too much. All right, so that's about right, I think. So yeah, look at that. Now, if I go more waveforms to try to get these skinnier and skinnier to get more resolution over here, I can keep on, and then look, pretty soon it says invalid. So now it gives me an error saying, dude, you've gone far enough. But my noise floor is really low down here now. And, you know, I've got the really narrow spikes. And I go, oh, shoot, you know, I want to get rid of that window. So there we go. There's full window. So you got the window function. If you use the HDMI port to use a large screen where you could put a bunch of windows up. So it'd be more like the Pico, right? With the Pico scope, I love using the multiple windows. It's really nice. Because you can have channel A here, channel B on another window, and so on. But yeah, guys, this scope is pretty sweet. All right, guys, so what do you think? This guy, it's really fast, right? When I hit the auto button, it's boom, it's right there. So it's got a fast processor in it. The GUI interface is amazing. It's just works so nice. It's the Windows function where you can pop up different windows. That I haven't seen that since my Pico scope. My Pico scope's amazing. I love that scope. That's my favorite scope. I mean, it's just, it does so much. This one, I almost want to call it a Spectrum. The FFT on it, it's like a spectrum analyzer almost. It's the way you set it up, so much easier than, like, say, the old Siglent, right? It's just so easy. And that waterfall thing, that's why I think of it as like a Spectrum. I mean, you don't see waterfalls on oscilloscopes anywhere near this price, like 10x this price maybe. So that's crazy. That's just awesome. I don't know if the Siglent does the waterfall. I wasn't even expecting it on this, so I didn't look for it when I was reading through the manual. I was mostly looking at pictures and kind of breezing through, you know, things that stand out to me. And the waterfall thing is just something I wouldn't even thought of. So let me know if the Siglent 12-bit does a waterfall. But the Windows thing, the waterfall, I mean, so, okay, guys, I got to pick the Rigol over the Siglent. Siglent on paper, because it has extra, you know, more memory and stuff, I would pick that. I would have picked that. But once I've seen this and the new design from ground up, that impresses me. It makes me realize that, you know, Siglent, I believe they came out theirs a little bit later, right? And the price kind of copied the Rigol, the 439 for the 70 meg 4-channel. Makes me think they're like being the Me Too guy, the catch-up guy. And so they kind of put their stuff in the old case. They didn't do a ground-up design. So I'm wondering if the firmware is a ground-up design. That's why, without seeing it, I can't talk to it. But I can say the firmware on this guy is top-notch. It's really great. Yeah, there's always a couple things you always think about, right? Like the one thing, I don't see like where you just hit the zoom feature, you know, to go into the dual window. Maybe it's here. I just don't see it. I could always make the quick button program to do that if that's what I wanted to do. But I'd probably like to have that as the save button, right? When you save stuff. But, you know, so anyway, all you have to do is hit the menu and then click the little thing on the menu and you got the zoom. So, you know, it's just 2 clicks away instead of 1 click. But little things like that. Right now, that's the only little thing I can think of. But I'm sure there's some other things that I'd go, oh, I'd rather have that than this. But that's always going to be true with any scope. Okay, guys. The windows. The fact that it can do windows is huge. Okay? The waterfall thing is huge, too. The USB-C back here. that power. Instead of being powered by AC power, it's safer not to be powered by US. It's safer for the scope. You don't have transients from your AC power lines coming in, possibly damaging your scope. You know, that's where the mechanical on-off button, like on the older Rigol, is handy because it would disconnect you from the power line versus like on the Siglent where it's more just in sleep mode. Now this guy's in sleep mode when it's not on, but it's okay because it's being powered by DC through a wall wart. So safer for the scope, safer for me. Anything metal that I can touch is all tied to that third prong on the power cord. So everything's all at the same potential. I can't get shocked by touching two metal things, right? You're washing or you're drying your house. You can't touch those two things, get shocked, because if one motor shorts to the metal, you're protected because they're both at the same potential. On this, it's like your laptop, essentially. You got a power USB-C power cord coming in. You don't have AC power coming in. The only power you're going to get is through your whatever you connect up to here. So you're isolated from your AC power. That's awesome, I think. And then you have the option with the banana plug back here on the chassis connection to wire that up and plug it into one of these other banana plugs if you want to. But yeah, it's so isolation, the Windows feature, the ground up design, man, I think those things make this guy a winner. And okay, so a subject I usually don't even talk about, but I bring it up because it's a reality. There's a guy I work with, or I did work with. He bought the 70 meg scope for channel, and he did the jailbreak thing, whatever it is, and because all the features, the bandwidth, and all the memory and stuff, it's all in the scope. It just has to be enabled. So when you buy a different one, they probably put a different sticker right here, and they enable different features. Okay, that way they make one scope, and they make two, a 2-channel and 4-channel, right? They make them, plug away, and then even the 2-channel probably has all the stuff for 4 channels, just whatever is enabled or disabled, right? Anyway, so for $439 for 70 meg scope, that it's just crazy the features you get with that. Right now, the 70 meg is under $400, but I think that sale is going to end at the end of the year, which is today, New Year's. I'm gonna try and post this today. So I just had to redo this part of the video because I'm always having technical problems. It's like, yeah, always redoing videos. So give a like, thumbs up to the video if you got any value out of it. That really supports the channel for free. You just have to hit that little thumbs up thing right down there. Or subscribe. That's big. I'd love to see my channel grow. Man, that'd be awesome. I want to give 2 thumbs up to Rigol for sending this out and supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys. I'll be returning it next week, okay? Thanks so much. Well, later this week, I think I will. Yeah, I think the shipping will be open later this week. So after the New Year's, I'll send it back. Thanks so much. I'd love to have it around to test some power supplies and some audio amplifiers to show that spectrum and show some 12-bit work, in real work situations, but it's a loner. Yeah, someday when I have a bigger channel, they'll give me one maybe. But anyway, guys, 2 big thumbs up to my YouTube members and my Patreons, and to Danny for being a team member on my YouTube channel. There's different levels of YouTube membership, and he's a team member. That I really appreciate that. And also, he's hit that super thank you button down there multiple times. Danny, you've been a big supporter of the channel all year. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I just want to appreciate, tell you guys, I just want to tell all you guys out there how much I appreciate you watching the channel and supporting it and all that stuff. It really does help me keep coming back, because I do have a day job and a little granddaughter I like to play with, so I'm pretty busy. But this is a hobby, and it does take some time sometimes too much time. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching and giving me all your support. So thanks so much, and hey, have a happy New Year's, and be safe, and come back and watch more videos next year. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.